Welcome to the Adventures of Adam, and welcome to Podforge episode 13. Has it really been 13? I think last one was 12. Yeah, welcome to 13.
Lucky for some.
12 plus 1 is in fact 13. My calculations might in fact be correct. With me today, I'm joined by Charlemagne just above me here, Ragewood to my right-hand side of the screen, and then Xaverok from the community Discord, moderator. He's the gray box on your screen. Say hi, Zav.
Hey there.
If you have been on the Godforge Discord, you probably have seen Xaverok. He's probably the one person that's more active in there than I am. And I have no shame admitting that. He's a literal machine. But the reason I've gathered these gentlemen here today, the reason I have assembled the council, so to speak, because each one of these gentlemen are leaders of a Pantheon. And we had some news come out about a week ago regarding Pantheons, and I wanted to get their takes on it. So, yeah, what do you guys think? Should we go right into the juicy stuff, or should we ease it in a little bit?
Let's ease it in. Let's be
ease in. Okay, let's warm the audience up before we get with the hard hitting stuff. Okay, so, oh man, so let's talk about the Pantheon boss rewards. So some of the stuff I saw was cool. I was confused about some of it. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on what you think. What your interpretation of this stuff was. So the first most obvious thing was like the daily rewards. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then the milestone rewards, I'm assuming that's daily rewards that the entire Pantheon gets, or maybe it's a weekly reward. I don't know. What do you guys, do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I just think the title milestone is somewhat misleading. Collective or Pantheon, yeah. It's as a group we have achieved X. I guess the easiest way to compare it, and we won't mention the name of said game, but yeah, obviously you physically kill that, don't you? That's like the HP threshold to unlock. Well, I forget what the chests are called. I assume it's their equivalent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would assume, especially based off the numbers, unless we're totally miscalculating, understanding what kind of damage we're going to be doing to this type of content.
You mean you don't have a 2 billion team planned in your head already?
I haven't quite gotten there. That plate hasn't had enough time to start spinning yet. But yeah, I would assume it's a whole Pantheon contributions.
That's kind of the vibe I got too. I think they should put like either the word weekly or daily, so we just to make it more clear, because I could see it going either way. But yeah, Zav, do you have any thoughts?
That would be helpful. A bit of clarification on whether it's weekly or daily. I assumed it was daily, just from what we saw on the screen. But I do really like that, having personal rewards and having a group reward as well. It should make playing with your friends a lot more profitable and fun, as opposed to I'm having to carry this person. If they're contributing something, it feels better.
Yeah, I hear you. And the one thing that I think I got wrong in my analysis video is when I was talking about the weekly personal rewards. I remarked that perhaps it was a typo, and rather than saying like the lowest completed tier, I thought maybe that was intended to say highest completed tier. I had a few people chime in on the comments and say they feel it was in fact the lowest completed tier, but it's based off of affinity. So like if you only have one good team for one good affinity, you can't just always get the best weekly rewards. They're kind of forcing you to build a roster. I see you guys nodding. You feel like,
yeah, I'm very much in agreement with that. It encourages us as players to, rather than just rely on one sole team with all of the busted heroes that we get. Yeah, you are encouraged to build a plethora of good teams for your account.
Yeah, I actually went to comment on your video in agreement with what you were saying, and the more I like logicked it out over text, I was like, no, actually, I think that's actually right. Lowest does make more sense, just based off. I mean, because you're also talking about like engagement, making sure people are coming back to it. and yeah, that they are building out a roster of heroes that don't just align with one type of fight. Man, I'd love to know what abilities we had to face in that fight, though. Spoiler alert, I don't know.
Yeah. I want to know if like each affinity has a different set of abilities, or if it's just like the same thing but just harder or easier because it's a different affinity every day. I'm really curious to find out about that too.
I hope
And I
it
know
does.
we're not. Yeah, go for it, Zav.
I hope it does from the standpoint. Obviously, you've all mentioned building out your roster, but different mechanics kind of forces you into those different rosters. It forces you to build a specific team for each different day. So you are building out your roster. You're not just focusing on 5 units or 4 units, whatever you're taking into the fight. I like that. I like variety. I've mentioned it loads and loads on the Discord. Variety is king for me. If there is something that is best in slot for any given content, it bores me, in all honesty. I don't want to run the same team as everybody else. I want something that is unique to me.
Yeah, something that you can spend time on, that you can be your brainchild, and it still is as successful, if as least reasonably successful, as whatever the meta build is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that would be the dream. As you were saying, as you were talking about affinities, what I think would actually be kind of cool, instead of going the affinity route, because right, that was expected, right? You know, the switch what affinity is. It would have been very interesting to see had they gone the archetype route. What if Kronos changed archetypes every day? Because we're also thinking about like the types of teams we want to build, right? Like, yeah, sure, okay, we can change mechanics. We can change, this one does initiative. This one manages initiative. This one affects speed. This one is going to make your attacks, or this one. I mean, the styles from previous games are kind of going to be expected. But if we could have had a Kronos changing the archetyped, which, okay, now we're fighting a brawler, now we're fighting a disruptor, now an invoker. Sometimes he has minions, sometimes he doesn't, based off of his archetype. Like that could have been just absolutely wild.
Maybe they could do that for a future boss.
But we don't know that's not the case, though, right?
That's also true.
Yeah,
That is true. They only show us the archetype.
Like,
I'm sorry. The whatever
affinity. Yeah, there's no
Whatever, yeah.
reason that. I'm trying to think of name. Strength. Is it strength? Yeah, strength. Strength could be the brawler-ish type that just smashes. Maybe against strength you have to bring brawlers. Maybe it's encouraging you. Brawlers do 20% more damage or something like that. There's so many routes they could go with it.
Yeah, leaning on the archetypes at the very least, I think would be great, because that is kind of the one of the parts of Godforge that are more unique to itself. That it's not just affinity, but it also has those archetypes. That would be cool to be able to see.
Yeah, so like this
type of content.
The Slayer just hits you way harder, so you need to make sure you bring attack down, right? Or whatever. Like the defender version, maybe he's got minions that he protects or something. Like, yeah, that'd be cool.
It might not have to be long till we find out from Dan's chat in my live stream last night, so we'll see.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I think that's enough small talk, boys. Let's get into the real reason why I assembled the council. Pantheons starting at 20 members. Xaverok, you've been pretty quiet. Why don't we start with you? What are your initial thoughts and feelings about this?
I'm kind of on the fence about it at the moment. A lot of games do start off at lower members and then level up over time and increase members every level, like 2 or 3 new people can join, for example. I am on the fence about it, but I'm not a big fan of it, if that makes sense. For me, it feels like a barrier to entry for new clans joining later in the game's life. All of the OGs, so to say, will be max level, hopefully, max member count, and then new people coming into the game, they're going to have a choice between a Pantheon that's got 20 members and is not necessarily full, or a Pantheon that's got 40 members and is much closer to being full. And on past games, new clans, clusters, whatever, really struggle to get a foothold in a game when the better rewards are locked behind member caps, for example. You know, we saw on one of the milestones for Pantheon boss, it was locked behind 30 members.
Yeah.
That's not what people are going to be looking for when they join up. A lot of people in the gacha space like to min-max, and that's what they do in every aspect of the game. I see a Pantheon, it's nearly full, I'm going to apply for that because I can get all of those milestone rewards from the group, as well as my own stuff.
Yeah, these
We
games...
obviously...
Go ahead, keep going. I thought you were done, sorry.
we obviously don't know what Fateless have got planned in terms of content. Is 20 members going to be, as mentioned earlier on, is that going to be sufficient damage early on? Is 40 members early on going to be too much for the progression of the game that they've laid out for us? So I'm on the fence. I'm waiting to see more information before I make a judgment on that personally.
Before you grab your torch and pitchforks.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned something that I wanted to touch on real quick. These games are basically just resource management games. So if you have an opportunity to join a clan, or sorry, a Pantheon, where you're going to get more resources, it's going to be much easier to manage those resources more optimally because you just have more things to work with. So that's also a really good point. Starliman, what do you think about over there?
Yeah, so the point of min-maxing and looking for a Pantheon that's like almost full, or at least potentially by its numbers, a healthier Pantheon than nothing, I really agree with that. Because when I was thinking through these numbers and really thinking through the 40 number, right? Like I've heard in the community, a lot of people say, well, why don't we just start with 40? We should just start with 40. Like that's the right fit. It's like, well, actually, like playing devil's advocate a little bit. So if you think about those numbers, you're playing a random gacha, you're playing by yourself because you're just looking for something to fill the time, and you go join a Pantheon or a clan, whatever it's called in that game, because, well, the game is forcing me, it is content locking me, that I cannot engage on some content and can't get some rewards, probably can't even get the best rewards because I'm not in a group. And so I have to go play with a bunch of randos. And so therefore, I'm at least going to go play with a bunch of randos who know what they're doing. And so I'm going to refresh that page looking for like what the 3 or 5 recommended groups there are until I find one that's like 90% full. And then I'm going to apply to any of them, just hoping to find one that is healthy. That's how a lot of people function. And when you think about the number 40, that is a big number to get like hardcore, like early game people, fanatics, perhaps we are, in and begin to manage that and develop that. Because as you think through like the person who's really going to be bringing Fateless, like who's going to be helping Fateless grow as a company, it is not the early game wave of players. Like we are going to be helping them develop their game at the beginning, but we're not building their business. Their business is going to build when the average Joe comes in and plays their game. When they are stumbling across marketing, when their buddy says, hey, you should check out Godforge because you like this game. The person who has not been following it for years, who isn't the ultimate min-maxer, I should say. And so that person going in and trying to start a Pantheon because they want to play with their buddies or anything similar to that, 40 is a very intimidating number, would be my thought for someone who's not me, for someone who's not us. And so 20 is a more reasonably starting number. And then I've kind of pivoted from my first initial point, but like 15 out of 40 looks unhealthy. Whereas 15 out of 20, oh man, that's a thriving group. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to help them grow. And they could probably do something around like what's visible when to different players. But then if you, hardcore player, have your friend coming in, like how can they get in your Pantheon and all that kind of stuff. But from a like just a user experience, I honestly am not that far against the idea of starting with 20, as long as growing to 30 is relatively quickly manageable for a very active group of players.
Yeah. Reed, you look like you're getting a little tired over there. Do you maybe you should wake yourself up and tell us what you're thinking?
Yeah, no, we're good, man. If I snooze off, just
You've had a busy last couple days, so
yeah, not as busy as some, but now I'm in agreement with Charlemagne. I do see both sides of it. Some people say, why not just start with 40, or I've got 40 friends. Well, I don't know about you, and Charlemagne can probably attest to this. If you're doing D&D, just organising 4 people to show up at the same time is hard enough, let alone 39 others or whatever.
yeah.
But I'm very much of the opinion the decision is not been made just because they're mean people. Like, there is obviously a reason behind it, and I think it is linked to, Simon mentioned, the increase of XP and like gold generation, something like that.
I can see that
if
too.
You start with 40 members, you'll be able to do the tasks quicker, I would imagine, because there's more of you doing those tasks. So you'll increase the levels, which is likely where this resource income increase comes from, and it will just put the economy out of whack. That's my thoughts on why they've made this decision. I do see why people are a bit, cheesed off about it, but there is obviously a reason for it. And building on to everything Charlemagne said as well, 15 out of 20 looks better than 15 out of 40. There's a whole host of reasons for it, but I think it's linked to the economy.
Did you just use Cheese's name in vain?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I love cheese.
Such a dad.
Yeah. But
seeing your guys' reaction just makes me laugh even harder.
The one thing I think, just to talk to Charlemagne's point about accessing those members, we'll leave Adam to just giggle. We'll talk as adults between us. We know that there's 50 Pantheon levels.
Mm-hmm.
If you're only unlocking one member every 2.5 or whatever it is, like that, I'm not okay with, because then you'll never be full until you get to level 50, and God knows how long it's going to take to get there.
I would think that probably won't be the case. I would imagine, right? It's like, because, well, and there could be any kind of ways of leveling up too, right? So Godforge is kind of an amalgamation of certain genres. Like, granted, it's 99% gacha and hero collector, right? But they're throwing in a lot more of like elements of like old style MMOs and other types of mobile gaming. Like, it could be even a level system that we're unaware of, or at least maybe our experience may not have as much to speak into. For me, like personally, if I was held up and said like, okay, well, what would be a reasonable timeline? I'd be curious what y'all's thoughts are too. But it's like, because I kind of see 30 as a great number. And 40 as that, here's the dedicated groups who really like stick it out and grow to that number so they can like really reach the top. But like if I had a group of my guys like playing hard for a month and doing all the content and really engaging, and I mean doing as much as possible, if we could get to 30 after a month, I think I'd personally, I feel like I'd be okay with that. What is y'all's take on that, timeline wise?
It's kind of a weird thing. And I did miss the first half of that conversation because I was laughing at my own joke too hard. That it wasn't even that funny. I had to.
Oh, it's gone again.
Here goes again. Hey, Zav, why don't you chime in here?
Yeah, Zav, why don't you take over and I'll collect myself a little bit.
Yeah. I'd be quite happy with a month as well. I think that's the big point of contention, is how long is it actually going to take us to get from 20 to 40? Is it going to be relatively quick? In which case, there's not much point in even having the caps. Or is it going to take ages and it's going to be like a year before we unlock the max amount of members? In which case, that's kind of off-putting and not really community building like they want. It'd be very hard for us as leaders, knowing that we're going to have spaces, but not knowing when they're actually going to unlock, sort of time frame wise. I would be quite happy with a month to get to 30 members, and then maybe 3-4 months to get to 40 members. So you're maxed out within half a year. Should be accessible for newer groups coming into the game. I think I'd be quite happy with that.
Yeah,
but obviously it depends on how they implement it.
It's hard when I can't see your body language because I can't tell when you're done talking.
I know,
That's usually a cue that I go off
I'll
of.
get a camera.
He's just flipping you off behind the grey box.
It's like, I can't believe that idiot over there laughing at that stupid cheese joke. Something that my initial something that Simon is doing, and I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or if it's just he's just kind of going into the videos not really knowing what he's going to talk about, and he's just kind of winging it and throwing stuff out there and seeing what sticks. But I kind of like it, giving us just a little bit of information without the full context to see how we react to it. Now, again, I don't know if he's doing this intentionally, but it feels like there have been a lot of times where he just kind of throws some information out there and it catches me kind of the wrong way. I'm like, wait, did he just say what I think he said? And then I make a video about it. And then, like a week later, 2 weeks later, now he's making a new video addressing it. And it's kind of interesting, this whole like back and forth, like indirect conversation that it creates when he just kind of like the whole 20 Pantheons, but with zero context, or 20 members with zero context, is really interesting. Something that I had considered was, as the game continues, it's likely that more people join in. So the fact that we start with 20, level up, gain more space, those new players coming in will have a Pantheon to join. If we started at the max level and filled it with everybody who was ready to play the moment early access starts, then the people who are more casual and aren't super dedicated come in, they will have to start a Pantheon because all the Pantheons will already be full. But by unlocking new member slots, it kind of gives those players coming in a way to just ease into a Pantheon without having to worry about orchestrating one. It's maybe that's the intent.
But here's the thing, right? So for newer players coming in, and no one has to answer this question, by the way. Who are you more likely to accept as a new member applying? Someone who's level 1 and has not started, or someone who is level 30 and is going to contribute to the group rewards?
I think it depends on the Pantheon. There are casual Pantheons out there. Like I know all of our clusters probably have casual Pantheons who would gladly accept someone because they're just here to toy around and have fun. But
leaders specifically set out to onboard new players.
Yeah. Something that occurred to me too. Well, I forget who. I think it was Charlemagne that was talking. I did run a clan in Raid Shadow Legends for a while, and we didn't have we weren't actively recruiting across Discords, and we would try, but we would just get snuffed out by like the big clusters who would snatch people up real quick. So it was very difficult for us to recruit on Discord. So we would just, when people would apply, we'd look at their score, accept them, and then cross our fingers and hope it worked. And sometimes the majority of those players aren't necessarily the most motivated to play. They're just very casual because they're not on the Discords. They're just hit find clan, hit apply. And when they don't pull their weight, the people who are on Discord, the people who are dedicated players, the people who are giving the CVC everything they've got because they want to win for the clan, when they see other people not pulling their weight, they're like, yo, who's this guy? He's not doing get him out of here. So the burden would fall on me to have to make the choice. Do we get rid of this guy and look for someone else? Or do we just keep a half-warm body in there for the sake of having 30 members? And it always come down to, I just got to get rid of him and hopefully I could find someone else. Because we weren't a massive cluster. We were just a small single 30 member clan. And it was hard to keep 30 active members. So 40, especially Godforge doesn't have Plarium's marketing budget to recruit new players. So, I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Well, and we can ask, because, we do have some cluster leaders here. It's like, what size is just right? Like where's the Goldilocks zone in our minds for a Pantheon cluster specifically? Because I know I've been talking to my leaders. It's like, okay, like we're already going into early access. I know Zav at ELT, like you guys are busting at the seam for just how many Pantheons y'all have, the members that are in it, everything like that. You know, at what point is it like, well, do we just keep growing? Do we allow like us to like like plateau out at this time? Like, what does that look like too, right? Because there's more that comes with more players. What are y'all's thoughts?
Zav, why don't you answer that first? Is the
He probably fell asleep.
I'm on the verge. I think it's for us in Control Alt Elite. We're taking two approaches. We are opening up what we're calling staging ground Pantheons, where there's going to be an alt account running it, and we're going to, when we get an influx of members, too many for the Pantheons that we've got, put those people in there, and then once the others have leveled up, we'll move them across. That also unlocks Pantheons like ready leveled for us later on down the line for when we're still growing, hopefully, fingers crossed. And then the other approach is just a more casual one, because we do have Pantheons ranging from casual free to play up to Wales competitive Kraken spenders. The second approach is leaving the recruitment for a more natural approach. So we've got 20 members initially. As they unlock level caps, member caps, we'll just recruit as and when they unlock. I personally like the staging ground Pantheon approach, but I know it's not for everybody. Not everybody likes to be moved around. We do try to initially place people with a similar mindset with one another, but in a gacha, you're on the internet. Sometimes it's not always possible. You will always get the odd sour ball in your group, but that's the aim. We want to try and keep people with the same mindset together. How about you guys? Because I would be very interested to hear other approaches, so I could tailor mine.
But to answer Charlemagne's original question, what do I think is the golden number? I don't know why 30 feels like a good number, a right number. 40 just feels like that extra little bit. The approach I'm taking is, I'm only recruiting to 20. Because there's not going to be a shortage of players when the game comes out. So then as a Pantheon levels up and a space opens, the leaders will then just pick whoever has applied. Like there's no it's first come first serve. The ticket system that's Zav set up for me in my Discord. They'll answer the questions. The leader will pick one that matches the philosophy of that Pantheon. Because I don't like the whole staging Pantheon side of things, because then you're always going to get, when can I move up? Me. Why this guy? And
because you're not as good as him.
Yeah, but I'm just going to avoid that entire conversation entirely, and I'm just telling people, when you get a spot, pick someone up. And if it means having to open up more Pantheons initially, that's fine. But, I'm not hard pushing it. Like, we've got 5 now. It feels good. There's a nice kind of, what's the word, vibe, I suppose, in the Discord. And some really nice people have joined. So, yeah, it will happen naturally.
Yeah.
I think as once the cluster feature unfolds and unlocks within the game, it might become easier to fill 40 members. I've never played a game where they have like clusters built into the game. Like before this, we would have to go to Discord to find that. And if you weren't on Discord, you wouldn't find a cluster, so that's just kind of how it was.
I'm really interested to see what the cluster management actually looks like. Is that going to be something similar to what we've got on Discord, where basically the leadership is in charge and we can see everybody that's in the groups, we can see all of the leaders, vice leaders, how many spaces they've got? is that going to be available in game? Because that would make managing a cluster a hell of a lot easier. Obviously, I don't expect that to be a quality of life thing straight away, because that's asking for way too much. But something like that down the line, that could really entice some of the bigger clusters to get on board sooner rather than later.
But before we transfer the topic, I remembered what I was going to say, so then we can circle back to the cluster thing. Discord. If you look at the number of people who are signed up for early access on the website, there's like 80,000 people signed up for early access. If you look at the Godforge Discord, there's only 40,000 people there. So only half the players who are signed up for early access are in the Discord looking for Pantheons. No?
Nope. Alt accounts.
Yeah. Because for the mini game, some people have got 100, 200 accounts for the mini game. That's what it is.
Yeah, every person who signs up for the mini game is registered for early access.
I thought that
so
wasn't
every alt account is a number on the early access sign up. Like I know I created 3, and there are people who created 10 and more. So that's the inflated numbers.
Okay.
Zaf?
We got told the opposite of that on the Discord. We got told from the community managers that they have to sign up to early access as well as the minigame for it to be counted as an early access registration.
I will excuse Charlemagne because he's not a moderator, but Ragewood, you should know better.
Charlemagne. I thought I was a Charlemagne there. I assumed that it was alt account bloat, I suppose, is what you can call it. But,
well, you did
still apply, though, right?
Yeah,
I've signed up my alt accounts, so I'm sure a lot of people have.
We all should. We need to get those 5 extra summons.
I mean, it may not be as bloated, right? But I would still think it's probably still the same thing.
That could be.
Yeah, Zav just said he signed up his alts.
He's trying to get those extra 5 stones.
I know I haven't, and I probably should now.
Yeah,
if the site wasn't down, I would go check on that real quick. But we don't necessarily need to pivot to that topic. But talking more about
pivot, like Charlemagne, answer your own question. What do you think's the golden number, and how are you approaching it? Because I understand that you're looking for the most toxic people to join. You want the biggest group of a-holes, don't you, together?
Quite the opposite.
The one community
have not
where
heard about Pax Corollas, we are specifically focusing on creating a non-toxic environment. So check out my channel and join the Discord. But Adam's probably going to cut that plug. But
I'll even link the Discords in the description and stuff.
Appreciate it, bro. No, so yeah, like this is actually my first time to lead a clan, let alone a cluster, anything like that. And so it is a big learning experience. I have some incredible people beside me that kind of like help me process through and make these decisions and work through this. But yeah, we're at 10 Pantheons, busting at the seams. And when I say busting at the seams, let me explain that a little bit, because we do not have 20 people per Pantheon, because we specifically want to have room for all of the people who start playing as the game goes forward. Like, we are a community first and then a cluster. And so by having some built-in space beforehand, we're enabling more people who are just trying to find that home, just trying to find that new space, enabling people to be able to join us. So it's like, okay, we get to like 15. And it's like, okay, guys, like, we need to slow down. We need to look at like creating more Pantheons, things like that, because I do want to be able to provide that space for new players as they're looking for a community. And so I think that's also another, going way back to kind of the beginning of this conversation. It's like, well, we knew we were starting at 20. So yeah, we can feel a little like, oh, that's frustrating. But at the same time, like, it's not like we found out new information. It was just like, okay, Simon confirmed it. And it's like, oh, I know I was preparing for this. I know a lot of the guys that I've been chatting with that are leading Pantheons and such, they were preparing for these numbers as well. You can definitely find that that's frustrating, but at least we know. At least we weren't like, oh, it's starting at 40. Now we have to pivot and move to 20. Like, thank goodness for that isn't the case. And so for me, thinking through what it would look like, especially right now where it's like, all right, I'm part-time everything. Part-time creator, part-time leader, part-time. Well, the only thing that I'm not part-time is a father, right? Adam, you get that. But like going much past like this 10 number, maybe a 12 of number of Pantheons, because you think, okay, that's 200, 220, 240,
Yeah.
240 players. I can math, kind of.
I can't. I was just nodding my head in agreement because it sounded good to me. I was like, oh yeah,
240 players.
Yeah, sure.
Maxing out at 440 players when those Pantheons are all leveled up massive. That's a big responsibility, even with like strong leadership aligned and like solid mod group and everything like that. Like that is not only a lot to manage, that's a lot to build. And that's kind of what we're doing. And so, yeah, that growing much past that, at least at this stage, when we're still talking about early access, the game hasn't even like come out yet. It's just like, okay, like I'm telling myself, okay, Charlemagne, hold back the reins a bit. Like, so, it's fine. I think that is a pretty sweet spot for myself, and where I'm at. But yeah, I feel like I would be a little overwhelmed if we were opening at 40 at the very beginning.
Yeah, I'm really curious to hear more context about how this whole system is working, what the team's thoughts behind it are. Like, I have faith, but I'm also like nervous, I guess. I haven't lost faith, but I'm shaken a little bit. I really want to know more information. I suspect we'll know soon.
Cautious optimism, I think, is the phrase that.
Well, and I'm really curious, guys. Like, let me know, like, genuinely, because I don't find myself in the same boat, I think, as a lot of other people in this decision. Like, why is it so shaking? Like, truly, like, at the end of the day, like, why is that something that's such a big point? Like, I'm not trying to sound like I'm callous or anything like that, but I genuinely am a little lost in terms of like why. Like, this isn't the summoning rates. Which, I mean, even with the summoning rates, I was like, okay, guys, like, come on, like, let's pump the brakes for a second. But like this, and granted, I'm not saying that the like summoning rates, Pantheon size, like very different things, right? Even the community response, very different things. But like, help me understand, because I just don't think I'm there with you.
My only concern is that people would fill up 2 Pantheons of 20 members, and then as the Pantheons grow, migrate from one to the other to get all their friends into the same Pantheon. And then this Pantheon over here would be left destitute and just abandoned, and some guy it would become his problem because he joined, and then now all the people left to go to the other one, and now he's stuck with this Pantheon. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? Where'd everybody go? I'm all by myself. Now he's unhappy because, I don't know. It just... that's my concern is people try to game the system to form the ultimate 40-man team, and I don't know. That's probably a very small subset of the community that will play that way, but it's still the main concern that I have. I don't know.
Yeah.
We've all seen that in other games.
Say that again, Zav?
No, let's just take on Zav.
We've all seen that on other games in the past. We've all played lots of gacha games in the past, and a community will come in, they'll cherry pick all of the best players from each of the top guilds. Suddenly they dominate the server, and then the game dies out because no one poses a challenge. But I think that's less on the company and that's more on the community.
Yeah.
If that group or that leader wants to be a douchebag, there's not a lot that you can do about it. Sadly.
I mean,
for as much as we don't want it to happen. Well, yeah, but they're the leader.
Oh no, the account just accidentally got deleted. Oh no.
Have a quiet website.
It's gone.
I mean, yeah, those are solid points. And Zav, I think like your experience in like these games in that realm is probably a lot more than mine. I just can't help but think of like just the person who's coming in to play the game, just to play the game, right? We all know from past gachas that it's 2 different experiences, right? The high spenders, the most hardcore players, the Krakens, whatever label you want to put, the top of the competitive area of the game. It's a completely different game. They're not even playing the same game as the person who's just downloading it to play on while they're taking a dump, right? Like, I mean, excuse me for the choice of words, but like seriously, like, okay, I have 5 minutes here. Let me just download a game to play, right? It's the percentage, granted, the the money that this small percentage gives the business is there's a lot of things to consider here, right? Because they're going to be contributing a lot more revenue to the business than the small 5-minute player. But the community base is primarily on that type of player, maybe not that type, but like well, maybe but yeah, like they can't just make like design decisions based off of the 1%.
Yeah. I still can't believe you said the D word, Charlemagne. I don't think I've ever heard you say dump before. Sorry.
You know, it was hard as a dad not to say, you know, poop on the pod.
I don't think anyone would have judged you if you did, good sir. Don't worry.
They've
Or,
heard
I'm
much
sorry,
worse
Rich,
on my
you say
channel
puppy?
before. Well,
I was
did-
trying to think of the proper word "loo," but it avoided my mind it as I was talking.
Would you say those players are number 2 for Fateless?
I would say
That was
they're, you know,
terrible.
genuinely number 1.
That was terrible.
I'm out. See you guys later.
I-
All right, enough potty humor.
does anybody else have any burning God damn it, I can't stop
Can
thinking
we
about
mute
poop.
Adam from our side. Can we just mute-
Is there anything else anyone would like to add before we wrap this up? I think we've done a good job discussing both sides of the conversation and expressing our points, but I don't want to cut anyone off if they had anything else to add.
No. I mean, just looking at your minutes, there's, I suppose, only one other thing we've not really discussed. If you want to get into it, but
I haven't even been looking at my notes. What did I miss? What do you want to talk about?
So,
Build a boss. Build a
yeah,
boss.
we've talked about starting size. We talked about level up task, kind of. But yeah, the bit at the very bottom, in the future, what do we think about world bosses, and what would we like to see from Pantheon Wars?
Ooh, okay.
So Adam is temporary stealing your host job. What do you think of world bosses, and what would you like to see from Pantheon Wars?
I think Adam just flicked you off a little bit, Rage,
Oh,
for
did I
taking that
not?
role.
Hey, someone's got to do it, man. I don't know, man. Like when Simon actually talked about it a bit on Mighty Zoo's collab, and I made these notes before that collab came out, so it kind of changed my perception of what we can see. When he was talking about like there being potentially like phases, like you go into the farming phase, and then the second phase, like the boss's minions are overrunning your sanctum or whatever. That's how I pictured in my head. I don't know if that's what my imagination pictured when I was listening to it. You know, just fighting off the minions, and then you go into the boss stage, the final. But like that sounded so freaking cool. I'm super excited for that. But I don't know if that was intended to be like something you do with your Pantheon, or because when I hear world boss, I think every one of the worlds attacking this thing, and we're doing it as an entire community. I think that would be so cool because we already have a Pantheon boss. But if it was Pantheon or cluster restricted, I'd be okay with that too. But I think just a giant effort from everyone playing the game. It's like if you ever played Classic WoW, when a new server comes out, they have like the Gates of Ahn'Qiraj, and it's this massive server-wide event where everyone in the entire community contributes to completing these quests to open the gates to unlock this 40-man raid. And there's one person per server who could unlock the title Scarab Lord, and they have to do this epic question. I don't know. I'm getting off topic, but like the idea of everyone coming together to fight this world boss, it really excites me. That's what I would like to see. Worldwide attack on the world boss.
I would think, yeah, I think world boss would definitely be long down the road in terms of like Fateless's plan. But what I'm really curious about is what would y'all like? What about like so Pantheon Wars? What type of content would be ideal for you? Like if you have a greenfield design, PvP, Pantheon v Pantheon, like what kind of gameplay would really like scratch the itch for y'all?
A mixture of everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's hey. There
To
you
put
go.
it bluntly,
Give it
a
all to
mixture
me.
of everything.
Well, yeah. Say more, Zav.
So, right. So my initial idea for Build the Boss Pantheon PvP would be it's either a week or 2 weeks long. You give Pantheons 5 to 10 days to
You're talking
attack
about
a
the build a
series.
boss concept that Simon talked
Yes.
about several months back.
Yes. So
Okay, gotcha.
in the 5 to 10 days, however long the war is, you have a series of different bosses that are in the game, and they have a points total associated with them. At the end of the 5 to 10 days, you use your points total to build your boss. Obviously, the more active your Pantheon is, the more bosses you get through. Once you've built your boss, obviously, the more points you get, the more abilities or more passives you can put on the boss to make it more difficult for the opposition. Then you have either 2 or 4 days at the end of that war where both Pantheons will attack each other's boss. Whoever kills it wins, or there could be potentially a draw. But I also very much like PvP, and I am a big PvP player. So I would like to see some sort of PvP element in it. So there could be, I don't want to use Etheria Restart as an example, but they had a map where you'd set up capture points, basically. You'd have so many attacks against the enemies in there, capture the point, get through to the hub of their team, and then that was all PvP. But I'd like to change that for Godforge to have it as actually PvE bosses in the hub at the end. So you build your boss, it's there, it's your last line of defense. All of your members have failed. Beat this now.
I can tell you put
I
some
would
thought
like
into
variety.
that.
Yeah, I really like the idea of build a boss.
Yeah, that sounds cool, man. I like the idea that your activity, what you were saying about your activity leading up to that event, allows you to make your boss stronger. Like the more points you get, the more stuff you get to add to the boss for your opponents to fight. That's a really cool idea. I like that a lot.
Yeah, touching on from what Simon had said about masteries and how we unlock those, like they'd be sort of achievement based as opposed to you just farming the Minotaur for 10 years.
Yeah.
It'd be much more preferable if we had a goal to strive for and attain, as opposed to just dump a load of energy in this dungeon and be done with it. Very much, if a Pantheon struggles, the next war you'd be against somebody weaker. You'd have in a lower tier, for example, and then you'd have weaker bosses. So it's always scaling with you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like an MMR for your
eventually
clan.
take over. Yeah, it would eventually, like to begin with, it might be unfair for the first week or two, but yeah, everyone will fall into place eventually, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And then obviously PvP, I love capture the flag sort of things, but it's hard to get engagement from your group. Like for Etheria Restart, my groups to begin with, they were leaving it to the last 4 hours on a 48-hour timer. And I'm there pulling my hair out, telling people where to attack. What are your teams? How am I going to build your teams to beat this? That sort of thing. I hate that, but I do love the PvP element.
So you would want PvP that requires less team-wide coordination? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe if something like 15 of your members, for example, set up a defensive team. They're then static. Whatever gear they've got gets locked in, gets shotted, and then the opposition can then attack those guys and then move on to your boss or something like that. The PvP element I haven't thought so much about because I love Build a Boss, so I just keep thinking about that.
Keeps you up at night.
Yeah.
It does sound cool.
I think it would be refreshing if their version of Pantheon Wars is not Arena 2.0. Like to me, it's not engaging at all. So I think the Build a Boss concept was cool. Maybe it's tied to Pantheon levels. Maybe so you unlock better traits as you level up. I spoke about in a video I did. Maybe you do like a hybrid mix and you link it to some lore. So what I suggested was you've been tasked by Destiny to kill the Thracian lion. The Thracian lion has kidnapped, I don't know, or
Princess
has the
Peach.
golden fleece. Yeah, Princess Peach, or has the golden fleece, something like that. That's your reward. It's a new weapon or whatever.
Isolde. Sorry.
But to kill that, you've got to go through the bandits, which might be 5, teams that the enemy Pantheon has set up that you've got to clear before you get to the boss at the end. Like, I think that maybe that, what's the word? Like, appeases people who like PvE and PvP content. Yeah, I just don't want to see Arena 2.0. That's the only thing I really care about, to be fair.
Yeah.
I would like to avoid wallet wars as much as possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, maybe a rotating game mode, so it's not always the same sort of clan versus clan setup every time you do it. So
I
one
wonder
week
if
you'll
they're-
have a PvE setup, another week you'll have a PvP setup, for example.
Well, you mentioned kind of doing something that isn't just like grinding Minotaur for hours to be able to contribute points. Like, what if there was? This is just like off the cuff design. So tell me where my holes are regarding this concept. Yeah, stop, Adam. So if you had this like currency that you were gaining through missions, leading up to the build a boss style gameplay, if that is where they ended up landing, you could sink that currency into the proper like unlocks that you wanted for that boss, but like the amount of unlocks you got placed you in a tier of competition. And you could even choose like not to engage in a weekly, like you could literally not unlock a boss and say, hey guys, we're going to be saving back our resources because we're going to push really, really, really hard once a month or something like that, whatever, how often it is. Or people who are the hardcore, who are building every single time, they could. But based off of like how many upgrades you get, that's like the tier you enter your group into. And so if you are able to do the highest tier, well, you know that you're going into the highest level of competition and potential like highest rewards. But if all you can do is the low tier, I mean, it might be competitive for those who can unlock low tier, but it's also going to be like lower rewards. So in my mind, you can't necessarily game that system as much, because if you are high competition, you're like, oh, we're just going to go lower reward, like lower tier so that we can crush the enemy. It's like, well, there's actually no benefit for you, the highest competitor, to go there because you're not going to get the rewards you want. And it's not going to contribute to your next round either, because you're still going to go back to 0 or whatever base of currency you have to rank up your boss again. And so that could like give a little bit more choice, I think, to the Pantheons, kind of a little bit more tactical, like, okay, we're really going to push now, or we're going to hold off this week or whatever. But also like, all I can do is one unlock for this boss. So I'm going to play with other Pantheons who can only do or only choose to do one unlock for this boss.
That could be interesting.
Something else that I've just thought about is Simon mentioned whether you team up with another Pantheon rather than like out and out fighting.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, but just, there is inherent like issues with that as well. Your team shows up and the other one doesn't. But you could do it maybe a similar system to what Charlemagne has suggested and enter something similar to like Cursed City, but it's like, okay, Ragnarok has now come. You now need to fight Dirt with this Pantheon. You do it on speed runs, quickest time to clear, then put you in a bracket for the next time round on who you might be paired with, that kind of stuff. There's so many routes they can go down. And that's just something I thought about. I thought it'd be really cool.
Yeah. I wanted to chime in about like what type of Pantheon versus Pantheon content I was waiting patiently for a time to jump in, and then the conversation kind of steered off. I really do like PvE VP, where you're doing PvE style content and then you're earning points, and then those points go against the enemy's points, rather than like fighting people in a direct PvP matches. That's my preferred style of these type of clan wars. And by a lot, I don't like PvP really. And the only type of PvP I like is if I'm on even grounds with a person, and these often are not that. So
Normalized.
yes, exactly. Yeah. I'm so excited for that.
One day.
Someday. Or maybe if there was normalized PvP integrated into the Pantheon Wars, that would be sick too. I would be down for that.
Yeah.
But I know most people don't enjoy PvP at all, even a little bit. So I don't know.
Well, but I also go back to, so especially for this type of content, like clan v clan, Pantheon v Pantheon, I go back to my experience with whatever it's called, siege and raid, whatever. I had some really bad experiences when it first came out. It actually caused me to leave my clan at the time, just because of how it was handled, and I definitely contributed to that. No one was without fault. But I landed in another, like a sister clan at the time, and I was in the boat of like, I don't want to do siege. I don't like it. I don't like, it's too stressful. It doesn't fit my schedule, etc. But we had one guy. Spoiler alert, he's one of my Pantheon leaders now. But we had one guy who was super passionate about it, extremely into it. And he was not even like, he's not a whale, he's not a kraken. He wasn't even a high spinner, anything like that. He just loved the concept and loved the tactics behind it and the mind games behind it. And his passion for this type of content really just like affected the rest of us, to where now it was every other week. It's like one of the most fun experiences for the whole group, because we're all just in it together, and it's just infectious in that way. And so, yeah, like I get it. Like I agree in the stance. Like this is typically someone like from a non-contextual stance, just looking from the outside in. It's one of my least favorite types of content. But when you have the community involved, when you have the relationships and the friendships that build over time, it can really become some of the most like team building, camaraderie type content in the game. So, I mean, there's good and bad there.
Unfortunately, not every Pantheon is going to have one of those guys in there too.
It's true. It's very true.
Hey there.
Yeah. Well, I feel like
okay, Zab, maybe every control delete will have one. But
I'll be there.
Zav is just cloning himself right now. He's making little Zav bot clones.
One of us.
I've got 15 Pantheons and I've got 24 accounts. Let's go.
Awesome, guys. This has been a really great discussion, and I really appreciate you guys coming on and having it with me, having it together. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for us, guys. Also, before we go, this is a YouTube collaboration, and if you haven't yet, click the subscribe button, and you see a menu pop up where each of our channels are listed. You can subscribe to all of us. Also, I will have their Pantheons linked in the description and in the pinned comment. So if you like the cut of our jibs and you want to join up with one of us, feel free. They'll be there. We'll be glad to have you. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully, we'll see you all in another video soon. But until next time, everyone, take care.